This is why it's important to be working with the right team who understands infinite banking and how to implement it. Is we're teaching clients how to literally create tax deductions from using this system. So we're helping them lower their taxes some now, but even more importantly in the future, because as they build up this cash value, we're going to use it to finance assets, but eventually we can use it to finance our retirement.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. I'm so glad to have you back listening to the show. Or if you're watching in a recorded mode, you're lucky because you get the video as well. So welcome aboard for all the new folks too. We have some great guests today, Anthony Faso and Cameron Christiansen, whom I've had the pleasure of interviewing before, and they've had me on their show. And the first time around, guys, they remembered I was actually coming back from Maine, back to Pittsburgh, and I literally pulled over in a hotel. I had accounts at all the hotel chains because I was always living in hotels. And I said, I need 5 minutes. I need to be on a podcast. And I plug it over there in that lobby space. And I said, yes, sir, Mr. Wilson. And the rest is history. So in any case, Anthony and Cameron, thanks again for joining us, guys. I'm so glad to have you on. I love working with you. And everybody listening, you're in for a treat today. So welcome aboard, guys.
Well, Gary, it is great to be here. We've always enjoyed the opportunity to work together.
Yeah, Gary, I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I know your business, like mine, has probably grown since the last time around, and it sounds like you've done a merger with what sounds like a very good strategic partner. But let's start for the newer folks. We've got a lot of new folks involved here listening. Kind of take us back to what was the impetus to start what you're doing now? And by the way, everybody listening, it's Infinite Wealth Consultants, okay? Infinite Wealth Consultants. And that sounds like it's a big thing, but it's very easily digestible. Just pay attention and take notes if you're not driving. But kind of take us back there, guys, if you don't mind, and we'll go from there,
Well, I would say where I began, I'm a self-proclaimed recovering CPA. I worked for Price Waterhouse and eventually started my own tax firm. And then, Gary, what happened to me was 2008 happened, where I saw my client's 401k turned into a 201k, right? The equity of their home, everything got cut in half. And particularly here in Las Vegas, we got hit really hard. But I also realized I was on the same track everybody else is. We had looked back, there was a recession literally every 10 years going back to 1900s. And we figured, if I don't do anything different, why would I expect a different outcome? But then I found some of my clients, most of them got hit in the gut, but a few of them actually excelled during that time. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? What books are you reading? Like, how were you in a position to not get hurt by everybody else? And what they had showed is they had access to capital that wasn't tied to the market, and they believed in real estate. And because they had that liquidity and assets were on sale, they were able to take advantage of it. When everybody else was panicking, they were thriving. And so that's when I went back, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but this time decided to actually implement it, not just set it on the other side of my bookshelf. But then during that time, I also got exposed to the concept of becoming your own banker, which is the infinite banking concept. And so I started combining the two to get financial freedom, which we define as passive income is greater than your monthly expenses. And then that grew into a business where I had my tax business and teaching infinite banking. And then I had my family like somewhere over here to the side, and they were supposed to be their priority, not really in the back. So I had to make a choice, an easy one. I sold my CPA firm and just really started helping people achieve financial freedom ever since.
Nice. Yeah.
Gary, briefly, my background was I was in Vegas, young man. I was about 25 years old, and I had a business for several years, and it was just me, right? I was a self-proprietor. I was running my business. I didn't have an HR department to turn to figure out where to put my money. And so pretty quickly, I realized that I had to figure it out. And I started looking at all of the traditional accounts and all the traditional advice that was out there. And to be honest, I looked at it and I thought it was pretty crazy that people were putting their money away until they were 59 and a half. I
Yeah.
was a young man at the time, but I'm like, this is insane. People actually do this. And so, you know what I did, Gary?
But
I did nothing. I had so many options and everything
yeah.
was so confusing. I just sat on cash.
Mm-hmm.
I was a small business owner, and capital and access to capital was paramount for me. And so I sat on cash. Fast forward a few years, my wife and I were buying our house, and we sat down with our real estate broker. And I tell everybody this, by the grace of God, out of nowhere, I asked this broker if he had a good book for a young couple. And he gave me this really weird look. He sat back in his chair and he goes, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do." And he reached back and he handed me this same book that Anthony shared a minute ago, but it's
Oh, wow.
Nelson Ash's Becoming Your Own Banker. And he goes, "If I would have read this when I was your age, it would have been the difference of millions of dollars."
Mm-hmm.
And so I went home. My wife and I walked out of that meeting. I remember this. I handed her the keys to the car, which was odd because I drive everywhere. But I went home and I read that book 3 times the first night. And what stuck out to me was it was the exact opposite advice that I'd gotten up until that point. And
Mm-hmm.
so at that point, that's what kind of launched me down this road, is trying to figure out the infinite banking concept, if it was real or legitimate, and then also how to implement it for myself. And so I started doing that. And then I started helping business owners really just by sharing what I was doing. And now we're almost 20 years into this industry. And Anthony and I have made a successful career out of it just by sharing kind of what we've been doing.
Awesome. And that's now what's the time frame you guys have been together now? How many years?
Man, almost 20.
Wow.
Yeah, we kind of first started working together in '09. That's when I
Yeah.
took Cameron under my wing and trained him. I'm just teasing. But then Cameron and I just hit it off. Same values,
Okay.
and it's same goals and purpose. So we've been,
Gotcha.
yeah, I guess it's almost 20 years.
Well, I'll tell you what. Couple of things for all the listeners. What we're going to get into here is basically U.S. based. Okay.
Mm.
So, if you're in other countries, don't worry. Just keep listening and learning. Eventually, we can come over here and, maybe get the credentials you need to be able to participate more fully than you already are. But nonetheless,
Mhm.
this is one of the best educations you're ever going to get. Speaking of education, guys, if you want to write this down, listeners, just remember Infinite Wealth course. Remember, infinitewealthconsultants.com is a website. There's a course called Infinite Wealth Course. Okay. So you can actually learn what, Anthony and Cameron are going to be talking about here on your own pace. You can do like what Cameron did, and take that book, right? Be your own banker, and just read it 3 times the first night. I'm not saying you get the same exact book, but you get the gist here. I've had similar moments in my life, and I'm telling you, when you focus on something that works and you just keep putting attention on it and wake up every day, put on your work boots, step up to the plate, tell the coach, "Throw me the ball, coach. I'm ready." Keep swinging the bat. You are going to succeed, and it's going to far outstrip anything you could possibly conceive of on your own. That's a promise. So guys, if we could kind of go in and dig into, let's start to unravel the onion, so to
Yeah.
speak. So everybody kind of go into the fundamentals. What actually is it we're talking about? And to give people, just let's grab them. So
Yeah. What I would say, we're going to talk this at a high level, and we would encourage you to learn it deeper. And the course that Gary's talking about, you can go online right now and buy it for $1,000. But if you stay till the end, we're going to give you a link to get free access to it. And here's how I kind of like to start to explain it, more of an analogy, Gary. Do you use a rewards credit card, Gary?
I do have. I'm very frugal. So I have a Discover,
Yeah.
Master through USAA Mastercard, and then a American Express, only because I feel like I'm supposed to have it, but I'm quite frankly, I don't really need it. So that's what I do, and I actually play it. I play the float. Every 10 days I switch cards throughout the 30-day period. I pay them all in full when the bills come due, and I accumulate the most points that way.
Well, let me ask, Why don't you just simply pay cash, Gary?
Well, I used to do that actually. In
Yeah.
fact, I was totally against credit cards because I came from the banking world
Yeah.
and I knew what was happening behind the scenes,
Hmm. Hmm.
So, but that's a good question. Kind of tell me more. Why is
What I
that?
think what I'm hearing is, Gary, you're saying, look, I'm going to buy this thing anyways, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Mhm.
But by adding one extra step, your credit card, you get some bonuses. Maybe you have some float, you have some miles, cash back, or whatever. If you can understand that, you can understand infinite banking. Okay.
Well,
So what I would say, particularly since we're talking with about real estate investors already understand leverage. Infinite
mhm.
banking is just applying leverage to your own money first. It gives
Okay.
you a place to store capital, earn a steady return, and then leverage against it to do deals. So instead of your money either sitting idle or being locked up in a property, it's working in both places. So with infinite banking, we need to store our capital somewhere, and most people will store it in somewhere that's safe and liquid. And then when they find that investment, they drain the account. And then the next month, you know what they're doing, Gary? Typically, they're filling that bank account back up because we want to buy more cash flowing assets. Problem of that strategy, every time we withdraw the money, we're breaking the compound interest curve. So we
Okay.
can avoid that just by simply storing our capital somewhere else that is not only safe and liquid, but also going to grow at a better return, tax free, depending on the state. But most states have some level of asset protection, so it could be protected from lawsuits and creditors, but also we can leverage against it. And the best place to store and leverage using this is a high cash value life insurance policy. And now, Gary, I know, believe me, when somebody first told me we're using whole life insurance, I was like, you're crazy. I've just heard so many terrible things about it. And what I would say, if that's you listening, have a little open mind. The way
Yeah.
we're designing this very different. I like to say that this ain't your mama's whole life insurance. This is designed for cash value, and we minimize death benefit. We have clients accessing their policy 25 days later. So
Yeah.
all we do, back to the analogy, we teach our clients to think of their policy as their rewards credit card for the down payment of their properties. So instead of using a credit card, we use a policy. Instead of getting miles, we're getting uninterrupted compound interest. Because the key thing is, Gary, we never withdrew the money. The money's still there. So it's still growing. So we never broke the compound interest curve. And now we have our capital here in two places. And a prime example is one of our clients filled up their policy, and then they found a rental property. The down payment had to come from somewhere. They took that down payment and from the policy, and then the cash flow they received from the asset, they got to go somewhere. So they put it back in the policy so they could turn around and use it again. So
Yeah.
what had happened is they still got the property, but now this whole time their capital continued to grow during the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. The key there is you're actually you're the it's not the velocity of money, it's the utilization of money. You're utilizing it in more than one way, which is a critical feature of building wealth. And for everybody listening, I just want to tell you, in my life, I've been blessed to know some really awesome, uber wealthy people. And that's probably where I learned what I learned how to build wealth is. And I can tell you this, going back to the 1980s, virtually all of them used this whole life approach. But they didn't call it infinite wealth back then. In fact, it was probably a lot more limited as far as what was available and capable. Now it is far more. There's far more capabilities here. I mean, you'd be amazed at some of the stuff you can do with this. But I'm just endorsing this, and you very rarely hear me endorse something like this. So this is one of those true, processes you can utilize and you can share with your clients. If you're an agent, real estate agent, and you have wealthy clients that are buying homes or better yet, investing in real estate, you should introduce this to them. Okay. So, in any case, back to you guys. Sorry.
Oh, no. Cameron, you want to add
I
anything?
couldn't. Yeah, I would just talk to the point that Gary was making there is that a lot of people are now coming around to this idea. And exactly what you mentioned there, Gary, is when they start to dig in and do just a little bit of research, they just realize how long this strategy has been around. It's just that nobody has really been talking about it. People have known that wealthy families, particularly, have been doing this for a really long time. But it really wasn't until Nelson wrote his book that was published in 2000 that it kind of became mainstream. And he wrote like the how to, like everybody had the idea, but his book is how do you implement this on a personal level. And so, yeah, I agree with everything you said there is that this strategy has been around for a very long time and people are just coming back around to it now.
Want to learn what's working right now in real estate? Then don't miss Monday Night Live, happening every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Each week, we bring you expert training on real estate investing, agent attraction, lead generation, marketing, and AI-powered strategies to help you work smarter and scale faster. You'll also hear inspiring success stories and lessons learned from some of the most successful real estate leaders and investors in the industry. Whether you're a brand new agent, a seasoned investor, or building a high-performing team, there's something valuable for you every single week. Learn, network, grow. Registration is completely free. Simply visit globalinvestoragent.com to reserve your seat for an upcoming Monday Night Live session. Join us this Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and discover strategies you can put to work right away. We can't wait to see you there.
What's really interesting is most people think of life insurance as you get a death benefit, which is true.
Yeah.
And one of the advantages, this is so many, history is ripe with examples. And one of them is people that build businesses in America. It's one of the American dreams. Build your own business. And you know what? A lot of people do, and they succeed. I'm one of them. Look at me. I mean, I've built multiple businesses, and the one I have now is by far the best one. But the reality is you buy the life insurance, you get the benefit. So let's say you get hit by the proverbial bus, right? And you go away. You're the person that built the business. That means in most cases, the value of your business is going to start dropping right away. Well, your family is protected because they got the death benefit. Your legacy that you're giving them is protected. While at the same time, while you're living, right, you're borrowing against the cash value. It's still sitting there earning a return. And these aren't like little bank interest rate returns. They're decent returns. So you're still getting the return as if the money's still there because it is still there. You're just borrowing against that, leveraging that at a really good rate, by the way, to go do other investing. I mean, it's one of the best things I've ever seen. To me, it's very conservative compared to a lot of other things out there. Mm-hmm. It's tested, tried, true. These companies, they ain't going anywhere, guys. Some of these companies have been around 100 years or more,
Yeah.
I tell you, Gary, our main company that we use has only been around for 175 years. And I got to imagine there's some people listening thinking, this just sounds weird. Maybe I've heard terrible things about whole life. I don't need the death benefit. I just want to buy real estate. Totally get it, right? But what if you take advantage of this course, or if you decide to get on the call with us, what we will do is we're going to do the math, right? And I'm a recovering CPA, so to me, I can read a book or somebody can show me a fancy PowerPoint. I need to see the math. I need to know if I'm going to do this for my family, that I'm going to be better off. And that's one of the things you're going to find in the course, or again, if you get on the call with us, where we do the math, we will design a policy specifically for you and based on what you're saving, and we're going to compare. Like if you save this money in a high yield savings account and we buy rental property, then what if we store those same dollars, but instead of somebody else's bank, we create your own banking system in one of these policies, and then we buy the same house. So same money going in, same money going out. And then we're going to compare who has more money at the end of the day. And at least that for me, or if they're the analyticals on there, that's one thing that really uses logic to justify why the wealthy have been using this for years. And these products have been out there They're available to the wealthy, and they're available to the average American as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. So now, if you a lot of our listeners, one of the things I like to do on the program here, the podcast is I personally my sort of bailiwicks, if you want to call it, has always been real estate. But I have also done a lot of other investing, stock market. I've even got into the crypto. I don't do the there's a lot of scams out there. So you want to invest in crypto just like you invest in the stock market. You have to go through an exchange, a legitimate, traded, regulated exchange for one thing. It's a must, and you just buy wisely. I don't own everything, but I definitely have some Bitcoin and things like that. In any case, what I'm getting at is gold. You can buy royalty contracts on gold mines. There's things like that that are so available, and we cover all these things. So here's what I'm getting to. What are some of the things you've seen people do when they borrow against the cash value? I know real estate is the thing that people know me for, but are there other things that you can do with that that are legitimate uses? In other words, I don't think the government's going to say, well, you can't do that and you can't do this as long as it's legal, right?
Couple parts to that question. The first one, as far as the government intervention, I would agree 100% with you. The government, maybe I'll say this, is they've floated ideas about coming in and mainly taxing the buildup of cash value life insurance, but that's been shot down every single time that's ever been floated. They did make one major change to policy and policy design over the years. It was back in the early 80s, I believe it was 1983. But what they did, Gary, just for context, is what we're doing is we're taking an insurance policy, and there's two parts to it. There's the death benefit part, and there's the cash value part. What we're trying to do is minimize the death benefit and then maximize the cash value.
Okay.
What they did in the early 80s is they came in and people were kind of exaggerating that funding on the cash value side, and they put a cap or a limit or a ceiling on how much capital or cash value you could create on specific policy. And they called it the MEC line, right? So there is IRS guidelines that we need to abide by on the policy design piece. And they did implement that in 1983. And what they did is they did not go back and grandfather that limitation onto existing policies, is they just put a line in the sand and actually a date and said any policies that are issued after this date moving forward need to abide by this regulation. And so that would be my expectation, that if they did come in and change this in any way, that would be the case. And so, to be honest, I feel like whole life insurance is on a fire sale right now, right? Man, if we're in a position to get some sooner than later, is because if they do change anything, you'll still be fine.
Yeah.
The other part to it, man, as far as like what people are using cash value for, man, there are we use a tool we call an investor DNA, and what we'll do is we will actually use the investor DNA, which will highlight somebody's strengths and weaknesses, and then we'll pair those strengths and weaknesses up with investment opportunities that coincide or match those. And so some people like the idea of real estate and owning maybe a single family rental, and that matches their investor DNA. And so we can identify that, while some people might like buying real estate in more so of a structure under a syndication, where they just write a check and get mailbox money every month moving forward. And then it also identify opportunities where somebody, maybe they want to be a little bit more active and they want to build a business. And so we just did a podcast with a gentleman that shows people how to build like vending machine routes. And so depending on somebody's skill set is going to dictate kind of the recommendation and maybe the avenue that they go down.
Yeah. Well, I know one of my colleagues, he and I were partners from years past, so we became really good friends. We're actually partners again now. He's on my team. And so he, probably going back maybe 6 years ago, he purchased an Amazon delivery route and turned it in one truck. By the time he was done, he had 11, and he did that by doing this. His family, his father owned some nursing homes in West Virginia. Actually, was the largest provider in West Virginia, and he passed away. And so my partner and his brother and Stepmom, were pretty much set. But my partners, I'm not going to use any names because people will figure out who it is very quickly if I do. But in any case, really good with he took what he was given and made it even better. He didn't just sit back on his laurels. So it's amazing the things you can do with this. Now you mentioned taxes. Let's go over that a little bit because loans when you borrow against the policy, sorry, against the cash value,
Mhm.
loan proceeds historically have not been taxable, and the principal you pay back, it's principal. It's just not like you're having a tax burden there too. Is it? So when you were talking about the legislation that has been tried, I agree. Life insurance is one of the oldest standing products in the human history, right? So stuff like that, like Truck's Law, courts just generally don't mess with it. They know better because it's got hundreds of years of history. They are not going to go after something that's been around that long, especially it's being used by some of the wealthiest people on the planet. They will make sure it gets voted down. But anything else people should know about though, tax-wise, when it comes to this,
Well, what I would say, life insurance has been around before personal income taxes have been in the United States. And you are right. I mean, who people, some of like Elon Musk, well, he's getting a lot of slack for many things, right? But one thing is he's not paying taxes because he has these stocks, and instead of selling them, he's borrowing against them. So he has the capital in his hand, and he still has the stock. So, and he doesn't pay income tax on loans, just like you said. So with the money growing this policy, it's going to grow tax free, and you have the option. You have the option to take loans against it. So you have that built up money you are getting tax free. So that money is continuing to grow tax free. And also, Gary, if we do this right, this is why it's important to be working with the right team who understands infinite banking and how to implement it, is we're teaching clients how to literally create tax deductions from using this system. So we're helping them lower their taxes some now, but even more importantly in the future, because as they build up this cash value, we're going to use it to finance assets, but eventually we can use it to finance our retirement. So we can turn this into tax-free cash flow. And so we don't have to worry about, so we have some money that is going to be tax-free. So we don't have to be so concerned of what the government's doing with their tax rates.
Right. Yeah, and plus at the end of the day, I know we could probably touch on what we're talking about as far as percentages and rates go. It's fluid. It could have changed with the markets, but really what I've seen in the past is when you borrow against your own policy. I mean, I keep saying that your own cash value, the rate you pay back, it's not like a hard money loan. These are normalized rates, and also the rate you're earning on your cash value is generally by a long shot a lot better than what you get at like a local bank. So at the end of the day, the spread is not that great, and when you factor in the tax benefits, I mean, you're probably making money compared to other opportunities you might have. Like if you look at people doing the reverse mortgages on their homes, I get the concept, but also and they promote it like, hey, do the things you like to do in your later life. But that's not what happens. People do that because they got Social Security and their pension got clobbered back in the 80s or 90s, and they're left with something it's just not enough. So they're doing it out of need. Where here, this is by and large used for people to help get further in life. So in any case, what I'm getting at is there's really not that much risk here. There's always risk in everything. When I look at this, guys, when I look at my upside potential and downside risk formula, this is really the better ones. I mean, by far, So what are some of the risks? Is there any risk that people should know about before they get into this?
As far as risk goes, I would argue this is the safest place to store your capital. I don't think there's risk storing it in there, where what we've been doing this so long, we do see where people do get hung up or where things aren't as successful as planned. And that's when people are taking the money out of their policy and then they're not putting it back in. We call that stealing the peas, and that's from a story that's in the book, Becoming Your Own Banker. But what we've seen is people don't understand the concept. So they might just hear it on a podcast, and maybe they're working with somebody or their uncle or their nephew who just got out of college selling life insurance. They don't understand how to manage a policy, and that's why we start with education. We want people to understand. Well, we want to understand where you're at to make sure this aligns to what you're trying to accomplish. Our view is we only want to work with people that we can help you get your goals faster and with a lower risk. And when they get on the call with us, we can't help everyone, and we will tell them up front that we can, and we can send them some resources. But if we think we can help them, then they're going to need to put in some effort. We're going to explain the great things about infinite banking. And you know what, Gary, there's some not so great things, right? There's pros and cons to everything. We take an educational approach. We're going to teach people both, right? And then we're going to support it with math and then design the policy based on their goals and their budget. And Gary, we're going to be there along the way, because you're going to need some help. There's going to be some questions, and what part of our job is to help people along the way so they make sure that they're maximizing the use of their policies.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. And at the end of the day, I know I was trying to let people know that this is not a one-trick pony. There are others, lots of things you can do with the money. But probably the biggest use is probably investing in real estate. Is that am I on track there? Or is that what most people are doing is picking up? Yeah. I mean, plus it's a brick and mortar.
Real estate's great. I love real estate.
Yeah.
One of my favorite asset classes, but it depends where you want to go, and how fast you want to go. So if you're trying to, get the financial freedom in 5 years, real estate, unless you're actively flipping or really getting into it, taking a lot of time, it's gonna be hard to get there. But maybe starting a business, like Cameron had mentioned, a vending machine route is actually something that's very profitable for our clients. Many of our clients are flipping raw land in the middle of nowhere. But to me, real estate is such an important piece. Either that's your main focus, or as you build your business, when the business is fully capitalized, then we can spread out, and we need to put the money, maybe take some of those profits and put into real estate. But I do think real estate should be a key piece of everybody's portfolio.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I knew this was going to go fast. We're kind of going to run out of time here, but how I want to make sure everybody who's listening, who wants to learn more about this, has the next step. So they go to the website infinitewealthconsultants.com, and there's the link that's going to be there. Is that right? Or would it be obvious for them, or how do they actually? I want them to learn. I love the fact that you're doing this, by the way.
Yeah, Gary, if they go to infinitewealthconsultants.com, that's our main page. You're going to see a bunch of resources, a bunch of educational pieces there. But more specifically, to get into the course, have them go to infinitewealthconsultants.com/massive passive cash flow.
Okay.
There'll be a landing page there that will then give them access to the course there. And what they're going to find in there is what Anthony alluded to earlier. It's a bunch of educational videos. There's nothing salesy in there. If you guys do want to meet with us, there's a button in there that says schedule now. But great videos, all about infinite banking. You guys can kind of make a decision on whether it's a good fit for you or not.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I know you guys we've known each other for several years now. My mantra on the team is success is the result of three things. It's the right education plus the right information. And what's really neat, the right education shows you how to get and use the right information, and then the third one is plus the right action steps so you get the right results. So I love the fact that you're coming from a place of contribution and education. It's just I can't emphasize that enough. And I really appreciate you guys doing that. That was a big surprise, and I really do appreciate it.
Well, I take Gary, we want to help people. And if you're a real estate investor, which is why you're listening to this show, you want that massive cash flow, you owe it to yourself and your family to evaluate this system. This is not for everybody, but we're giving you an opportunity to review, see the videos. We're not going to hound you. We're not selling anything. We want you to learn and take advantage of it. And then you could decide, hey, this ain't for me, and that's fine. Or it's more than likely you're going to say, this is interesting. How does it work in my personal situation? And then that's when you get on the call with us, and we can help you answer those questions.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that this again, Cameron and Anthony, and all the listeners. We appreciate you too. If you could leave a podcast review on this, whatever channel you listen to, it's on 30 different channels. Anthony and Cameron and I, we really appreciate that because you guys, you still have a podcast too, right?
Oh yeah, the Infinite Wealth Podcast.
Infinite Wealth Podcast. So we really do it as a community service. We don't really make money on it directly. Indirectly, we have relationships and so forth. But it's a great way to serve the community, lead with education. So everybody, if you could do that, we really appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. God bless you and all your loved ones. And we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.